Thank you very much to once again to welcome you to MedZone African Motives, whereby we are on term one preparations and revision, wherever we are going to look at an AC question, section C, on business studies grade 12. So this is the last part of the presentation that we made on business studies grade 12. So this is the very same paper that was written in KwaZulu-Natal province. So that is that. Like we have said, this is a March test, 2025 test. So we are preparing ourselves with this past written question paper in 2025. So, like I've said, we are going to be mainly looking at the essay question, which is section C. So let's quickly go straight to the question. So here we are on section C, good people. As it says, answer any one question from this section. But as you're going to attend both of those two questions, question 5 and question 6. So there is also a note that is given there, clearly indicate the question number of the chosen question. So like if you, when you're writing your final examination, you're going to only choose one question. So meaning to say you have to clearly indicate the question number that you have chosen. But as for now, as we are trying to prepare ourselves, we are going to choose both of the question 5 as well as question 6. So now let us go to question 5. So here we are on question 5, business environments, and we are on legislation. We are on legislation. So here is the statement that is given or scenario as it says, credit providers must analyze the purpose of National Credit Act NCA 2005 Act of 34 of 2005 before granting any credit as well as the consumer rights in terms of this act. So it is also important for business to assess the impact of the National Credit Act on their operations. Compliance with National Credit Act is compulsory for all credit providers. So in this question 5, we are mainly going to talk about what? National Credit Act. So we are going to look at the consumer rights. We are going to look at the impact of this act. So you know very well when you're talking about the impact, we are talking about the advantages and disadvantages, positives and negatives of the act. Whereby now we are talking about National Credit Act. Also the compliance of National Credit Act. So that is what you're going to look at. These are the aspects that we are going to talk about. So now let us move on with people. So it says, write an essay on National Credit Act, which include the following aspects. So the aspects that you're going to include in your essay are the following. Outline the purpose of National Credit Act. So you're first going to talk about the purpose of the National Credit Act. Explain the consumer rights as stipulated in the National Credit Act. Discuss the impact of National Credit Act. Like I've said, when you talk of the impact, we're talking about the advantages, we're talking about the disadvantages of the Act. Suggesting ways in which the business can comply with National Credit Act. So this is what you're going to talk about on question 5, where we're going to talk about legislation, National Credit Act. So let us not waste time and quickly go to the answers on question 5. As you have said, it's section C, and that is question 5, business environments legislation. So we are first going to start with what? Introduction. So when you do the essay question, don't ever forget to start with introduction. Then comes to the body, whereby you're talking about the aspects that are given there on our questions and as well as our statements or on our scenarios. Also, after you've discussed the aspects, don't forget to conclude, to give conclusion. That is the structure of our essay. So now let us first start by the introduction. Introduction. It says the act was introduced to protect consumers in the credit market and to make credit service more accessible. Meaning to say, when you are saying this act protects consumers in the credit market, so it means the act prevents consumers from being exploited by credit providers. Get me straight. What it means is that the act you're talking about, National Credit Act, prevents consumers from being exploited. From being exploited by the credit providers. By the credit providers. That is how we can explain these statements. For example, a store may not charge extremely high interest on higher purchase goods. So the act protects what? The consumers. Business should always ensure that the rights of consumers are protected to maintain good business image. So what it means is that ensure fair access to credit for all customers. Get me straight. Ensure fair access to credit for all consumers. For all consumers. That is that. For example, low-income earners can apply for store cards if they qualify. Hope we are together on that. So let us move on to another point with people. So another point is that the act has positive, negative impact on both clients and the credit providers. So in short, we are saying protect consumer rights to maintain good business image. So what it means is that business that respect consumers' rights gain trust. Are we together? We are saying business that respect consumer rights. Consumer rights gain trust. That is how simple it is. That is how simple the statement means. So it means business that respect consumers' rights gain trust. A bank clearly explains loan terms to customers, and that customers are going to be loyal to such a institution or to that bank. Let us move on. Business must explore various ways to comply with requirements of the Act. Remember, we are talking about National Credit Act. We are talking about National Credit Act. So, when we are saying business must explore various ways to comply with the requirements of the Act, so what we are trying to say is that, good people, the Act prevents consumers from being exploited by credit. Sorry. Business must comply with the Act. You're on that one. It means that business must follow all National Credit Act rules when granting credit. So that is that. So any relevant introduction related to the purpose of national credit consumer rights as stipulated in the National Credit Act or impact on the Act or ways to comply is acceptable. So now let us move on Now we are moving on to the aspects now. We are now on aspects because if you can remember when you come back here, we are given this as our aspects. So these aspects are the ones that you're going to build our body of our essay with, like purpose of National Credit Act, consumer rights, they are stipulated in NCA, impact of NCA, ways in which business can comply with the NCA. So let us go to answers on that. So the first aspect is to talk about the purpose of National Credit Act. That's where we are. The purpose of what? National Credit Act. It says National Credit Act promotes fair but competitive credit market. So meaning to say it prevents unfair practices while allowing competition. We are saying it prevents unfair practices while allowing competition. While allowing a competition. While allowing competition. That's what it means. Now let us move on. Makes provision for establishment of National Credit Act regulator, NCR. So it means NCR monitors and enforces compliance with Act. That is that. We are saying NCR monitors and enforces compliance and enforces compliance with the Act. With Act. So the Act that we're talking about is NCR. So that is that. So now let us move on to another point. Another point says ensure or promotes the social and financial interest of consumers. Promote social and financial interest of consumers. It means it protects consumers from over-indebtedness. We are saying it protects consumers from over-indebtedness. For example, limiting the amount a consumer can borrow. Hope it's clear. That point, good people. Moving on, ensure that consumers know what is included in credit contracts. Ensure consumers understand the credit contract. Contracts must be clear and understandable. That's what it means. We are saying contracts must be clear and understandable. And understandable. So that's what this point means. So now let us move on to another point. As it says, ensure registration of credit bureau and debt cancelling services. So means to say, regulate institutions handling credit information. Prevent now discrimination and ensure credit is available to all consumers. So that is that. So it means credit must be offered fairly to everyone. We'll be able to get on that. So now let us move on to another aspect. So the other aspect that we are on now is consumer rights as stipulated in National Credit Act. Now we are on consumer rights. As it says, the first one, apply for credit and to be free from discrimination. Meaning to say all consumers may apply for credit unfairly. It says all consumers may apply for credit fairly. For credit fairly. That means that. For example, a woman is allowed to apply for a home loan. So let us move on. receive information in plain and understandable language. So mean to say consumers must understand credit details. Consumers must understand credit details. So that is that. So receive documents as required by the Act, meaning to say consumers must get copies of contracts. That is that. Consumers must get what? Copies of contracts. Hope you are together with people. Receive pre-adjustment documentation before conducting any transaction. So here we are talking about what? Pre-agreement documentation. Meaning consumers must review terms before signing. They must review terms before they can sign the contract. Hope you're together. Obtain the reasons for credit being refused. So here we are talking about receive reasons for credit refusal. Consumers must be informed why credit is denied. Let them know. Why is it refused? Let us move on. Fair and responsible marketing. Fair and responsible marketing. So what it means in short is that no misleading advertising. No misleading advertising. That is that. Access and challenges. Access and challenge credit records and information. So that means consumers may correct incorrect records. They may correct incorrect records because you've said access and challenge credit records and information. So that is that. Return, let's choose which goods will buy and return, such as goods if they are not satisfied. So it means return goods if unsatisfied. Consumers may return unsuitable goods. You've got that right. Surrender or return goods to the credit provider in order to settle the outstanding amount of debt. You were talking about apply for debt cancelling. Here you apply for debt cancelling. So it helps consumers manage debt that way. Apply for debt review or cancelling if consumers cannot afford to repay their debts. If they cannot afford to repay their debts. So you apply for debt cancelling. So this helps consumers manage their debt, like we've said before. Receive protection of their personal information. Protection of personal information. What it means is that consumers' data must be kept confidential. It's clear, for sure. Receive protection from being held accountable for the use of the credit facility after they reported the loss of debt. Refuse a credit limit increase. So any relevant answer related to consumer rights as stipulated in National Credit Act is acceptable. So now let us move on to another aspect. Let us move on to another aspect. So here we are on another aspect. So now we are going to mainly look at the impact of this act, national credit, on business. And we're going to start with positives or advantages. Positive or as an advantage. So it is lower bad debts resulting in better cash flow. So only qualified consumers get credit. That is that only qualified consumers get credit. Consumers get what? Get credit. So that is that. Protect business against non-paying consumers. So it means legal protection for business. It means legal protection for business. So that is that. Authorized credit providers may attract more customers. Authorized credit providers may attract more customers. So that is that. Leads to more consumers through credit disease as they are now protected from abuse. So here we are prevents reckless lending. Oh, we are on prevents reckless lending and prevents business from being bankrupt. So it means we avoid lending money to, we avoid lending to unqualified consumers. So that is that. So, for example, affordability assessment, that we have to do affordability assessment. Increases cash sales as credit can only be granted to qualifying consumers. So we are saying it increases cash sales because you're only going to grant credit to qualifying customers. The whole credit process is transparent, easy. Both business and customers know their responsibility. So clear responsibilities for all parties. Business do through credit checks and receive up-to-date documentation from the consumer as a proof that they can afford repayment. They can afford repayment. That is that. Credit bureau information is made available to business so that they can check the credit worthiness of consumers before they can take risk of granting a credit. So any relevant answer related to positive impact of NCA is acceptable. So that is that. So now let us move on to the negative part of National Credit Act. The negative part of National Credit Act. We are on the negatives of disadvantages of National Credit Act. It says business can no longer carry out credit marketing. That is that. A business is no longer a can no longer carry out credit marketing. So that is that. Business struggle to get credit such as bank loans and overdrafts. So that is another disadvantage that the business is going to struggle to get credit such as bank loans and overdrafts. So businesses that do not comply with the NC may face uh, legal action. They would face legal action. So also, debt collection procedures are more complex and expensive. So debt collection, when you have to collect, the procedures are more complex and expensive. That is why it becomes a disadvantage. Fewer customers buy on credit as it is more difficult to obtain credit. So it means that can as well affect your sales for being increased because people are afraid to buy on credit. Also, fewer customers, okay, increase the administration burden on credit providers. The paperwork, administrative processes required by the act are costly and time consuming. So here we are talking about them. Here we are talking about the administration, increased administration cost. So it means more paperwork and procedures. It means more paperwork and procedures. For example, extra staff hired for compliance, you see. It can also lead to losses of sales as many consumers may no longer qualify to buy on credit. Because of this act, need the qualification. So some are going to fail to comply. And once they don't comply, it means that it's going to reduce your sales. Because now, if they don't have cash, then they're not going to come to buy. That affects your sales. Also, the business needs to appoint additional staff to deal with extra administration. So that is another cost that they have to incur. Should the credit agreement be declared reckless, the business can forfeit the outstanding debt and so the courts, you see. Business that are official credit providers must submit compliance report every year. So the business that are official credit providers, they must submit compliance report every year so that you can see that they do comply. They are still complying with this act. So that is another work. A business must make sure that all attempts have been made to recover the debt before blacklisting the consumers. Great profits cannot collect from consumers who are under debt reviews. So that is a complex debt collection now. As legal procedures take longer. More working capital is needed as business cannot sell many goods or credit due to stricter credit application. So here we are talking about more working capital. So cash sales increase. For example, business struggles with cash flow. So a relevant answer related to the negative impact of National Credit Act is acceptable. So now let us come to another aspect, ways in which business can comply with National Credit Act. The first one says offer applicants pre-agreement statements. Provide pre-agreement statements. It means you inform consumers before signing. It means you inform consumers before signing. Before signing. So you do, for example, inform consumers. You do, for example, loan quotations issued. Disclose now all cost of loan. No hidden cost should be charged or earned. So mean to say disclose all cost. Disclose all costs. That is that. No hiding fees allowed. Obtain credit records or checks of clients before granting loan. So here it simply says you do what you call conduct credit checks. You conduct credit. You conduct credit checks. You conduct credit checks. So you assess consumer credit worthiness. Hope you are together on that. Business should be registered with National Credit Regulator. That is when you can say you've complied. So what it means is that legal requirement to offer credit. It means legal requirement to offer credit. So that is that legal requirement to offer credit. Submit an annual compliance report to the National Credit Regulator. So you are to submit what? Annual report to every year, report to National Regulator. So that's that. Conduct affordability assessment to ensure the consumer has the ability to meet or her obligation. Conduct credit checks with registered credit bureau and consult the National Credit Register. So here we are saying register with NCR. So that is that. Legal requirements to offer credit. Business must have procedures in place to comply with the provision of Financial Intelligence Center of Act figure. So affordability assessment. Business must have procedure in place to comply with provision of financial intelligence. So that is that. Verify identity of clients, report suspicious transaction or train staff on their obligations in terms of figure. So that is that. Any relevant answers related to ways in which business can comply with the act are acceptable. So now we are to be on our conclusion. Now we're to conclude this act. As it says, National Credit Act help business and clients to manage credit effectively. So here we are saying NCA helps manage credit effectively. It means now it protects both business and consumers. Protects both consumers and business and businesses. So that is that. NCA National Credit Act makes provision for consumers' rights that the business should observe or to avoid penalties. Business must comply to avoid penalties. Non-compliance leads to fines. We know that. Business must analyze in detail both positive and negative impact of NCA. So we are saying the business must analyze the details of positive and negative of this act. Business must comply with National Credit Act are likely to enjoy benefits. So any other relevant conclusion related to the purpose of National Credit Act, consumers' rights, as well as impact of this act are accepted. So now we have to move on to question 6 now. Now we are to move on to question 6. So with question 6, so let us go to questions before. Here we are on our question 6. Here is our question 6. Business rules, ethics, and professionalism. So we're given a scenario as it says both ethical and professional behavior form part of effective business practice and guides employees' conduct in the workplace. King Code principles such as transparency and accountability are instrumental for good corporate governance. Business must be aware of challenges posed by various types of unprofessional business practices. Effective strategies need to be developed to deal with pricing goods in rural areas. So now we are asked to write an essay on professionalism and ethics in which we include the following aspects. So we're given the aspect that we are to include for us to write our essay. So the aspects are the following. Outline the difference between ethical behavior and professional behavior. Explain ways in which the following King Code principle for good corporate governance can be applied. That's when you know transparency as well as accountability. Discuss the challenges posed by any two types of unprofessional business practices. Advise business on strategies to deal with pricing of goods in rural areas as type of unethical business practices. So these are the aspects that we are going to talk about for the whole of this question 6. So let us not waste time and go to the answers for those aspects. So like question 5, we are going to start with the introduction. So as it says, business management must be aware of the difference between ethical behavior and professional behavior. So what it means is that ethics relates to moral views and professionalism to conduct. We are saying ethics relate to moral views professionalism to conduct. That is that. That's what it means. For example, a honesty versus property risk code. That is what we are trying to say. King Code principles of good corporate governance are applied to direct and control the company in the most effective, professional, responsible, and effective, as well as ethical manner. So it means the King Code principle promote good corporate governance. King Code promote good corporate governance. That is that. For example, transparent decision making. That's what it means. Unprofessional business practices are detrimental to business growth and stability. So it means poor conduct reduces trust. It means poor conduct reduces trust. Reduces trust. For example, overcharging customers. That's being unprofessional business practice. Business must use various strategies to avoid unnecessary overcharging of products or services in rural areas. So you avoid unnecessary overcharging. So it means fair pricing supports social responsibilities. So now we are to come to another aspect, 6.2, the difference between ethical behavior and professional behavior. So we are to differentiate the two. As it says, ethical behavior refers to principle of right and wrong and acceptable in society. So it means that it refers to the principle of right and wrong acceptable in society. So it is about what society believes is morally right or wrong. That is that. Also conforms to a set of views that are morally accepted. So it means actions are guided by honesty, business, and integrity. So that is that. Forms part of code of conduct to guide employees to act ethically. So ethical rules help employees know how to behave correctly. So that is that. Focuses on developing a moral compass for decision making. So that helps individually to guide what to decide what is right and make what choices. Also involves following the principles of right and wrong in business activities, practice, and deadlines. So that is that. So it involves the principle of right and wrong in business activities. So it means that it ensures business practices are morally accepted. For example, a business sells safe products and does not mislead customers. That is that. So now let us come to professional behavior. As it says, it refers to what is wrong or right, acceptable in a business. So it means that it focuses on acceptable conduct in the workplace. Its focus is on acceptable conduct in the workplace. Professional behavior is a certain standard of behavior or specific level of competence that adheres to ethical code of conduct. So it is a certain standard of behavior and level of competence. It means that employee must perform duties skillfully and responsibly. Applying a code of conduct of a profession or business. So it means employees follow professional rules and standards. Focuses on upholding the reputation of a business profession. So here we are saying behavior should protect the company's image. As we are saying, it focuses on upholding the reputation of business and profession. It includes guidelines on employees' appearance, communication, and attitude responsibility. So it includes guidelines and appearance and communication and responsibility. So what it means that set rules on dress code and workplace behavior. So that is that. So now let us move on to another aspect. Let us move on to another aspect. Here we are on another aspect, which says ways in which business can apply good principles for good corporate governance. And you're going to talk about transparency. We are going to talk about what? Transparency. It says decisions or actions must be clear to all stakeholders. Meaning to say stakeholders should understand how decisions are made. They have to understand that. Example, management explains price increases to customers. That's that. Staffing and other processes should be open and transparent. So what it means that hiring and promotion must be fair and clear. Employees or shareholders or directors should be aware of the employment policies of the business. So here we are saying um, employees, shareholders, directors should be aware of employment policies of the business so that they can put that into practice. Auditing and other reports must be accurate or available to shareholders or employees. So here we're talking about the auditing and reports must be accurate and available. So it means that financial information should be honest and accessible. So that's that. Regular audit should be done to determine sorry, the effectiveness of the business. Here we are talking about regular audits that should be done to check effectiveness. So it means that audits ensure the business is operating properly. That is that. Business deals should be conducted openly so that there is no hint or sign of dishonesty or corruption. So here we're talking about what business deals. So this is going to prevent corruption and dishonesty. This will help on preventing dishonesty as well as corruption. So business should give details of shareholders voting rights to them before an annual general meeting. So that is that. Shareholders must receive details of voting rights. The board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively implemented. So that is that. So now we have to move on to another aspect, accountability. We are now on accountability. So accountability, let's say there must be regular communication between management and stakeholders. So what it means is that this keeps stakeholders informed about performance. This keeps stakeholders about performance. This keeps stakeholders about performance. It further on says business should be accountable, responsible for their decisions or actions. So it means management must accept. It means management must accept consequences of decision. That is that. Companies should appoint internal or external auditors to audit financial statements. Appointment of internal as well as external auditors. So what it means that ensures that financial reports are checked independently. To understand, the board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively implemented. So it means that ethical behavior must be enforced by the leadership. That is that. Business should present accurate annual reports to shareholders at the annual general meeting. At the annual general meeting. So this, the present annual general meeting, it means that shareholders must receive sufficient information. Top management should ensure that other levels of management are clear about their roles and responsibility to improve accountability. So that is that. So now let us move on to another aspect. So here we are on another aspect. Now we are on challenges now. Challenges posed by the types of professional unprofessional business practices to business. So this is what you're going to look at. Challenges posed by types of unprofessional business practice to businesses. So 6.41, unauthorized use of workplace funds and resources. That is that. So it says fraud increases the cost of doing business and undermines competitiveness of the business. So that is that. Discourages investors as fraud and corporation increase the risk of investment. So the investors are not going to be willing to invest to such organization. The business can experience a substantial loss if it goes unchecked. So that is that any relevant answer is accepted. So now let us come to another aspect: sexual harassment. Sexual harassment. So, with sexual harassment, it says the affected party may stay away regularly from work. So it means affected party may stay away from work regularly. So stress and fear cause absenteeism at the start. Business could lose female employees and attract retain or less female applications. Loss of employees and few applications. So a hostile environment discourages women from staying or applying. Sexual harassment causes discomfort and humiliation and negatively affects work relations in the workplace. So here we are seeing what? Sexual harassment causes what? Discomfort. So here we about a sexual harassment causes discomfort and poor relations. So harassment creates tension and reduces what? Teamwork. A victim may be severely traumatized, and this may affect other employees emotionally. So that is that. Also, another point is that the affected party is normally reluctant to report the incident due to fear of victimization and can reduce productivity. So any other relevant answer is accepted. We now let us come to the abuse of work time. Abuse of work time. As it says, it may result in employees often abusing work time. Employees misuse work time. Time meant for worker is spent on personal activities. That is abuse of work time, which result with not meeting the deadlines. So that's what we discussed. Wasting time cost or the business money and affects productivity. So that is that wasting time costs money. That's what he said. So it means reduced productivity increases operating cost. Abuse of time results in declined profits, which could damage the financial wealth of the business. Decline in profits. So it means inefficiency leads to lower output and revenue. Effective customer service may not be rendered or resulting in any negative image of the business. So now we are to move on to another aspect. We are on strategies to deal with the pricing of goods in rural areas. Strategies to deal with pricing of goods in rural areas as type of unethical business practice. First, it says work together with suppliers to share delivery costs to remote rural areas. So it means that you share delivery costs with suppliers. This reduces transport costs to rural areas. That's what it means. Business can buy in bulk to get discount to avoid charging high prices. Buying in bulk. So bulk buying lowers unit cost and preventing high prices. Hope you get on that. Charge fair market rated or fair affordable prices for goods and services. So you charge fair market rated and so as fair affordable prices of goods and services. So it simple says it reduces what buying back. And there is no example. Avoid now an ethical business practice to attract customer loyalty. Build trust and customer loyalty. It simply says that build trust and customer loyalty. A business may lobby with other business in the area to convince government to improve infrastructure in the rural area. Lobbying government for better infrastructure. That is good. Investigate cost-effective ways of transporting products or large truck to combine deliveries to shop owners in the same area. So any relevant answers related to pricing of goods in rural areas as type of an ethical business practice is acceptable. So that's all about the aspects, and now we are to give what the conclusion of this is. We are to give the conclusion of the essay. As it says, ethical and professional behavior controls towards a good public image. So business gain trust and respect from the public. Business establishes solid reputation through application of key code principles such as transparency and accountability. Key code, key code builds strong reputation. Transparency and accountability enhance credibility. That is that. Business must discourage contacts of unprofessional business. That is that. Discourage unprofessional contact. So it means that it means that reduces negative impact on productivity and morale. Developing proper strategies to deal with pricing goods in rural areas may increase business sustainability and profitability. So that is that. So any other relevant conclusion related to the difference between ethical behavior, professional behavior, application of King Code principles of good corporate governance, challenges posed by unprofessional business practice, strategies to deal with pricing of goods as type of unethical practice is accepted. So thank you very much for your time. Please make sure that you as well refer others to, and that is when you are sharing with them. And please don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you very much.